Word problems. How do we help students with word problems? There's two things I see most often when kids try to tackle word problems and they're not successful. Number one is they just see the numbers in the problem. They don't really pay attention to what's going on. They pull the numbers out, they pick an operation, they compute some answer, and they hope that it's right. And oftentimes it's not because they haven't made sense of the problem yet. The second thing I see students do is just the very nature of word problems really amps up their anxiety and they just can't perform. Their mind sort of shuts down. They're not able to figure things out. So how do we help them with that? Well, I have 4 things that you can do. You have to help students restate the problem in their own words. You can make it numberless. Take the numbers out to help them make sense. Try simpler numbers so you can see the underlying mathematics without getting caught up in the details. And lastly, draw pictures and diagrams. Let's apply those 4 strategies to an actual word problem. Here's one. You can paint 2/3 of a square meter of your wall with 2/5 of a gallon of paint. How much of the wall can you paint with 1 gallon of paint? Now this can be a really scary problem. It has fractions in it. There's a lot going on. Can really trip students up. So I'm going to apply those 4 strategies to try and make sense of it. Number 1, restate the problem in my own words. So I read it, I could read it again, but I need to make sense of it. So let me just simplify what was given. I'm not going to rewrite the whole problem, but I do know that if I have 2/5 of a gallon, I can use that to paint 2/3 square meters of my wall. Now, what is the question asking me? It's saying, hey, look, if you have 1 gallon, then how many square meters can you paint? So this is my simple representation of just restating the problem in my own way. It's all there. All the noisy words have been taken out. I can just focus on this turns into that, and then I want to know if this turns into what. Okay, great. Another thing I can do to help me make sense of it is to make it a numberless word problem. What would that look like? Well, you could say you can paint a certain amount of square meters of your wall with a part of a gallon of paint. So I've taken the real numbers out and I've replaced them with these vague things. A certain amount of your wall, part of the paint. And the reason I do that is now a student cannot rush to just compute because they have to actually make sense. So maybe they've never painted a wall before. So that now let's just take a moment to think about what would this look like. Oh yeah, well you'd have a gallon of paint. Maybe that, I know what a milk gallon looks like, so it's yay big. And it has some paint in it, but it's not full. And you put your paintbrush in there and you paint the wall and you can paint a certain amount. And I know a meter is about 3 feet, so like this much maybe. And I could paint 2. So I'm getting a sense of what's going on. Some of this stuff is being used to paint some of the wall. Okay, with there being no numbers, and I haven't really restated the question yet, I could even think about, okay, what are some questions they could ask me? Well, they could ask me like, if you had more paint, how much more wall could you paint? Or if you needed to paint this much amount of wall, how much paint would you need? So I'm already starting to make sense and think about what questions they might ask. And then, now I want to solve it, I might start taking this and putting in easier numbers because these numbers are scary. So let me try wiping these out for a moment and just making some easy numbers. Let's say I have 2 gallons of paint and I can paint 8 square meters. Okay, no more fractions. And I pick numbers that are sort of friendly with each other. I like to pick numbers like 2 and 8, 2 and 10, 3 and 9, numbers that fit nicely together in proportion. I try to avoid 1 and 0 because those can be special cases. Now I can see, oh, I've got 2 gallons of paint, I can paint 8 square meters. I can now see that, oh yes, if I had 1 gallon of paint, well that's half as much paint. I'll be able to paint 4 square meters. Awesome, I have an answer. Well, how do 8 and 2 relate to make 4? Well, if you divide 8 by 2, you get 4. Oh, this is a division problem. You divide what you can paint by how much paint you have, and get the answer that you're looking for. Now I can go back and put in the regular numbers. So we'll get rid of this. We'll go back to 2/5 of a gallon paints 2/3 square meters. And I know this is division now, and I need to divide this by this. I figured that out from my simple numbers. So I go, okay, I need to do 2/3 divided by 2/5. Uh-oh, I forgot how to divide fractions. Yikes. Now what do I do? Well, I've made progress, but I don't have an answer. What if I try and draw a picture? Let's see what that would look like. So let's get rid of all this. And let me just draw. What is 2/5 of a gallon? Okay, well, gallons of paint come in these little cylinders that look like this usually. And I have 2/5. So let me divide this into 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, maybe I'll make this one there. So they're about even-ish. And I know that 2/5 are full, so this part has paint. Bottom, there's paint all in there. 2/5 of a gallon of paint. 2/5 of a gallon. And I know I can paint 2/3 of a square meter. So I'll make a representation of a square meter. It's 1 meter on this side, 1 meter on that side, and I can paint 2/3 of this. So I can paint that much wall with this much paint. And I want to know, if I had the whole gallon, how much wall could I paint? Okay, well, I can already start to see that this little section of paint, because this is split into 2 pieces, this section would paint that section, and this 1/5 would paint that part. Okay, so 1/5 of a gallon paints 1/3 of a wall. That's good to know. 1/5 of a gallon paints 1/3 of the, 1/3, sorry, square meter. Okay, cool. Oh, well, if I have a whole gallon, I got 5 of these. That means I'm going to be able to do 5 of those. Okay, so with a gallon of paint, I can paint 5/3 square meters of wall surface. That is it. Problem solved. And the picture and all this other making sense helped me figure out how this word problem works. Those are some simple strategies to help you help your students with word problems. Restate it, try to take the numbers out so you can make better sense of it. Use simpler numbers if you can to help you figure out what's the underlying operation that I need here, or operations that I need here. And finally, draw some pictures or diagrams and then make sense of them. Wow, this was a lot easier than I thought when I drew the picture. Hopefully those strategies can help you help your students with word problems.